And for want of time, please permit me to stand on the properly established protocol. As said, I'm here on behalf of His Excellency, the Governor of Bayelsa State. It's a big shoe to fit into. I want to bring a word of apology from His Excellency, who is an avid follower of Security Watch Africa activities, for not making it here in person due to urgent and conflicting state matters. I want to believe you will understand. We're most honored of the opportunity to share this platform, wonderful platform at all times once again, with vivid memories of our experiences in 2013 and 2014, when we were in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Dubai, as it were. Again, by way of appreciation, we're grateful for the encouragement and recognition of our very humble and modest efforts at providing basic service to our people. We, as a state, we appreciate you for being worthy partners in the Bayelsa project, because by that you urge us to do more. Now, the security successes of Bayelsa State can be attributed to certain fundamentals. One is strategic thinking by His Excellency. Two, team selection. He selected a very good team that we can refer to as round pegs in a round hole. And basically, he decided to go for professionals to manage security, and he left it for the professionals without interfering. And I want to acknowledge, as part of the team, Bayelsa team here, the chief security consultant in one right, and also an awardee for this night's series, retired Major Lance Nyanya. Also in the team is the commander of the Special Task Force, His Excellency, due to strategic thinking how to set up. We call that Operation Doako in our local parlance, and by translation that comes to peaceful world, because we went into a place that was also like a war front, and we had to translate it into a peaceful environment where people can come in and enjoy and express their God-given talents, and that much was achieved. Of course, due to His Excellency's background, he decided to separate security from politics. Now, in the Nigerian setting, very easy for you to mix politics and security, and that much is what most of our security agencies are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And the commissioners of police and the chief of army staff rep can appreciate and understand that, what I'm talking about, in the sense that there's a very thin line between politics and security. We do not know at what point where we should draw the line between politics and security. And anything of security connotation can easily be painted into politics, and where common criminals have to be protected on account of patronage and followership. And it makes the job very difficult for them to manage. And we feel for them from time to time, because we know they are managing unenviable situations. And we trust that with wisdom, as they say, wisdom is profitable to direct. They have been able to record good successes thus far. Of course, commitment. Commitment from a team of selected individuals and the statutory security agencies, particularly the police that have been over-criticized, coming out with notable results that presented Bayelsa to be acclaimed as one of the safest states and coming to win back-to-back awards and being on the stage yet again this year. We cannot but thank you. Of course, there's the synergy and the coordination among the security agencies. It's often said, life is not about what you have, it's about what you make of it. And if we have all the security agencies available to you, and you can't, get them to work together to give you the desired results, then something is wrong and something is amiss. And His Excellency has been able to put all of that together, to bring them together, to work as a team with very visible synergy and coordination. And of course, last of the fundamentals I want to touch is people mobilization. He was able to steer the people to be part of the security architecture, and they have been able to play their parts and come out with awesome and amazing results that have helped the security agencies to apprehend criminal elements that are hiding in places. All of this we want to term as fundamentals, but the above fundamentals are also supported by certain very critical factors, which has to do with one of which I refer to as leadership. Then of course policy running through, then legislation. Of course, acquisition of assets, training and welfare for the players, the security operatives in the field. Taking the aspect of leadership, the governor of Bayelsa State left no one in doubt, even from the time of campaigning for his first tenure. And we expect that when you are coming in to campaign for elections, because you want to curry the favor of the people, you tell them stories they want to hear. But from the beginning, onset, and from first principles, he made it clear as to the fact that he established a zero tolerance to crime and criminality. And he said that, and he has followed that through all the way. And so he has given that political leadership very clear on issues. He leaves no one in doubt as to his position on what issues that pertains to crime. So that has made it easy for the security operatives to function, as it were, because clarity is important. When they cannot determine where the principal, where it leads to, they begin to use their initiative, and oftentimes they get into trouble. So it gives that support and gives the political leadership and makes it clear as to his support for their efforts and backs them all the way. That much he has done, and that has given us very wonderful results. In the area of leadership, I'd like to still talk about the aspect of strength of character. That is related, of course, to the aspect of clear position on crime. He has shown very strong strength of character on all issues. And even at the national level, his position is very clear and ambiguous. It goes beyond party politics and party affiliations. He gets it, he identifies a criminal issue and states it the way it should be. And so that has equally helped the security agencies in working and giving them a clear direction, sense of direction, to manage the very naughty security issues in a place like Bayelsa, which was the epicenter of the militant agitation of the Niger Delta. So that must be appreciated. Then, of course, policy. In the area of policy, he has been able to develop proactive approach. And of course, as a result of the proactive approach, what we refer to, and I will go into that a little later, what we refer to as the Bayelsa Integrated Security Strategy. That was a policy document put in place to enable us confront the security issues that were there. Bayelsa was replete with all kinds of security issues when we came on board. A situation when major development players, none, and I mean none, those one contractor was in Bayelsa State for development purposes by the time the restoration government led by Seriake Dickson took over. Why were they not there? On account of daily kidnapping incidents. Of course, on a day you can record as many as 4, 5, 6, up to 10 kidnap incidents. Some reported, some not reported. High profile ones, and of course the ones that not considered high profile, you may not hear about it. But that was the order of the day. And so this policy had to be developed and followed all through, which I may touch later. Of course, the next I may want to talk about in this line is legislation. Now, to strengthen the arm of the security agencies in law enforcement and back them up, you needed some kind of legislation because the law is at times windy in certain areas. And so he came up with certain laws. He initiated and drove the process as a former lawmaker, of course, and actually gingering the assembly. They were able to do that and put a whole lot of backup laws in place in Bayelsa State, like the anti-kidnapping law, of course, and several others. The Security Trust Fund and a lot of others were put in place to strengthen and back law enforcement in Bayelsa State. So that has given us good results as a result of a visionary leader who has been able to put that in place. Now, next I want to talk about acquisitions. Acquisitions. You and I know that people, even the police or the soldiers, would not just go out fighting crime or combating situations with their bare hands. They require assets. Assets, platforms, and what have you. And these are things that are required. And of course, we know the challenge with our security agencies with these assets. Issues of platforms, they hardly have. And logistic backup, of course, he had to go into all of that to ensure that he acquired platforms for the security agencies, as well as making provision for logistic support. And that also paid off with the outstanding results again. Now, of course, training. Training, you need knowledge and commitment to carry out law enforcement and all of that. And so to this effort too, it supported training efforts of the security agencies in several ways. And of course, the last of which is welfare. Welfare to operatives bring about motivation. And he was able to embark on welfare programs that led to motivation. And success elements we talk about in security operations are knowledge, the resources, and commitment. You can engineer commitment through welfare packages. And so, well informed by that, he was able to embark on that, and it came up with quite a number of wonderful results which the whole world can attest to. That said, I want to go into the area of what was in Bayelsa State in 2012 when the restoration government came into place. The time would not permit me to actually go through quite a number of them. And of course, it was quite a very robust lecture of almost about close to 50 slides. But we saw that we don't have time, and we had to abridge all of this into 20 or 15 minutes. And so I will just try to run through this and mention just a few of them. The situation when we came into Bayelsa State, when His Excellency Governor Dickson came in with the restoration government, was a situation where in Bayelsa State, you had daily murders. That was the situation you had in Bayelsa State. And of course, kidnappings, like I talked about earlier on. Armed robberies, well, it was a common thing. The norm was that you must experience a robbery incident. The exemption is that you don't experience one. Of course, rape incidences that were induced by drug-taking youths all over the place. Organized crime was the order of the day because cult groups ruled the state, and the major cities were ruled by cult groups. And this was encouraged and promoted by the authorities before. So this was what we had. And public disorder was the order of the day. And of course, by the time we got to His Excellency got to the government house itself, half of the government house was occupied by ex-militant generals, they call themselves. So we had to go into an operation to actually get them out of government house. The government house is supposed to be the residence of the governor and the deputy governor. But we saw a situation whereby militant generals were the ones who were occupying government house. And that was the chaos with which His Excellency went into government in 2012. Of course, we know the sabotage on economic platforms and resources in the area of bunkering and the illegal refineries. And this had to be confronted head on. And so, His Excellency went straight into business. And based on that, of course, I talked about the acquisitions. Based on that, quite a number of acquisitions were made in the area of requirements for the security agencies. I will just also run through a few of them, just for the purpose of time. I may not be able to go through so many, but because of time, I'll just go through a few of them. But before doing that, let me touch on the aspect of the Bayelsa Integrated Security Strategy. The Bayelsa Integrated Security Strategy itself was a security document, or do I say the Bible or the Quran of security that Bayelsa State was supposed to implement. And in this was put together by experts in security, including the Chief Security Consultant, who is here, I earlier introduced, and a few of us put that together. And we put together 4 action plans. One, there was the first and immediate action plan 1, which was to harness the readiness of the statutory security agencies at that time and coordinate their operational contributions into a single common aim in fighting criminality. And it was to establish Special Security Task Force, which I refer to as the Operation Doakbo, and also improve on the security situation in the state. We were on a free fall to insecurity, and there was so much of investment into insecurity. And so we needed to do investment into security and reverse the trend, as it were, stop the free fall and reverse the trend to what could have been acceptable at that time. And so that was the essence of Action Plan 1. And thereafter, Action Plan 2 was to focus on the crude oil theft and illegal refineries that were used by criminals to fund criminal enterprise. From the sales of illegal crude oil, the proceeds were used to fund, to acquire arms and ammunition, as well as drugs. And so they actually operate under the influence of drugs. And so Action Plan 2 was to ensure that you focus on that aspect to stop the oil theft and illegal refineries and destroy all existing illegal refineries as well. And equally to shift out of the system the catch of arms that were already being used in the government by the citizens, by criminals, as it were. And of course, the third aspect of this was to set up the state government's role to call attention to the need, as well as marshal its resources to cost resolution actions at all government and industry levels required to achieve cleanup of the ecological areas that have been destroyed by these illegal activities that are going on. And aside these 2 action plans, we had a medium-term the medium-term action plan, which in summary was to fund the training of a selected group of police officers and other law enforcement and security personnel, to deliver training by specialist expatriates, providers with cognate experience using official government liaison channels, amongst others. That was the focus of the medium-term action plan. And of course, we are the last from the security document is the socio-economic dimension. That needed to be addressed, otherwise you find out that you'll still be faced with the issue of these incessant problems around us. And from the socio-economic dimension, it was to appreciate the urgent need for socio-economic programs and projects with significant capacity to rehabilitate repentant criminals while denying new ones of recruiting areas, as well as the implementation of a special human capacity development program in which incorporates the phased training of youths locally and abroad. And that is one of the reasons why the Bayelsa State is on an education revolution. The next set of fighters, the understanding of the Bayelsa State government is to ensure that they are prepared in the theater of competitive fighting, where they can compete with their peers outside. And to do that, of course, you have to develop the skilled manpower through education. And the impacts have been quite enormous. I'll skip the aspect of the detailed investment and just go into the impacts for you. By that, I can actually touch on some of the investments as well. Just a minute. Now, the impacts of some of the investments, I'll compare it with investments. From the Special Task Force, Operation Doakwa, we talked about. When the Operation Doakwa was deployed, it came with a 500-person capacity strength, with personnel pulled from mobile police units from across the nation. We needed them fresh from various areas, not the ones that were used to the environment, who were having some interface with criminals. And with that deployment, of course, it gave so much of relief to the society. With the deployment of this, we had the support, of course, for the statutory security agencies. And it became a source of competition as well with the statutory agencies that were on ground. And so it raised the ante, and it became a form of training also for the ones that were already on ground. The base was set up, purpose-built base was set up for the Operation Doakwa. Of course, with standby generator because of the situation of power and several other arrangements to ensure that they had the basic comfort. And of course, that paid off in several ways. And it became the focal point for coordination of efforts towards ensuring swift response to criminal incidents. And the target was to be proactive and achieve a 3-minute response to incidents. And actually, we recorded less than 2 minutes response to incidents. That much was also attested to by several high-profile visitors, including the American Undersecretary of State, when they came visiting Bayelsa for several projects. Yeah, as part of the Operation Doakwa deployment, because of the nature of Bayelsa State is about 80% riverine. As His Excellency would say, Bayelsa is more riverine than River State and more deltaic than Delta State. So we are at the center of all of this. And so in planning security operations, you cannot but give considerable attention to the marine elements. And so, as part of that, the deployment of the Operation Doapo Marine came into being. And of course, the Operation Doapo Marine was to be headed by a naval officer, comprising both naval and marine police elements. And they worked well together. First was the procurement of 15 armored gunboats by His Excellency, and the reactivation and refurbishment of several moribund gunboats by the police, as well as supporting the Navy, as well as the Army, the Operation JTF that was there, which metamorphosed into Operation Delta Safe. So that support was given to all of them, and we got enormous achievements through that. And as a result of that, the impact was the robust presence of security operatives in the waterways. And at several times, we provided escort for trading and passenger boats when the situation within the waterways was that bad at the beginning of our operations. And added to that, they embarked severally on hot pursuit of criminals, several times coming into free firefights with them, and of course winning the firefight most of the occasions because of the support and the good training they had. And of course, with that, they were able to respond to incidents far in the hinterland, in our isolated communities. Several communities are very isolated, and the access to them is only by water. And because the boats are not always available, quick response is not available to them. But with the launching of the Doapo Marine, they were able to respond quickly to incidents that takes place in the hinterland. And by way of this itself was facilitated by a robust investment in what we call the TETRA communication investment. And in Nigeria and in West Africa, we looked through several journals on the deployment of TETRA in Africa, and we found out that a few places, Egypt, and even in Nigeria, we had only the oil companies, and of course, assets that are procured by the oil companies, you know that they're in the upper realm of costs. And so most states government and even the federal government didn't go into them. But of course, Bayelsa, because of the importance we gave to security and support for the operations, were able to go into that ambitious investment for communication. And in military parlance, we said, if you don't have communication, you don't have anything. And because my background in the military was also of the signal, so I understand that quite well. And well, another aspect of investment was the K9 unit, the establishment of the K9 unit, the dog unit. The dog unit gives, complements human operations as a multiplier of efforts. Several capabilities that are not available to our human effort and even scanning efforts can be brought to bear by the K9 unit. And because of that, because of the bombing incidents, we had to embark on that as well. And the investment in the area of bomb dogs, drop dogs, tracking dogs, crowd control dogs, handlers, and training was embarked on by the state government. And by way of that, we were able to achieve high confidence security operations during even security gatherings and events. We were able to record successful outcomes during deployments of these K9 dogs in discovering arms and ammunition, as well as even drugs in very remote areas. And the criminals are very ingenious. And so we needed to develop measures that can also beat them. And that much was done, and the results that came it served as a deterrent to other people who were planning such. Yeah, then just to touch on the area of electronic surveillance. High-profile investments were made in the area of electronic surveillance. First, with the enabling law, the electronic surveillance law was put into place, and based on which we were able to put eye in the sky through the Safe City projects, which deployed about 250 CCTV cameras and more around Kenebai, the capital, and other major cities of Bayelsa State. It had a capability for number plate as well as facial recognition capabilities. And so all of this was put in place, and the impact of that was the high confidence we were able to achieve in security operations during events, and the routine monitoring we were able to use to carry out by security operatives. Of course, very high-risk environments for criminal activities were also monitored, and it brought down their freedom of action significantly. And of course, electronic tracking of suspected criminals and kidnappers, to the point that we were able to apprehend quite a number of kidnappers from their dens deep inside the mangroves of Bayelsa State. These are amazing feats that were recorded by the investments made by His Excellency, the Governor of Bayelsa State. For us, we've been looking back at what has been put in place. We're quite happy. And the indicators of success so far is the acclaim, the Bayelsa State being acclaimed as one of the safest states in Nigeria. And that has been said by very highly placed principals. And of course, through the efforts of Security Watch Africa, we were able to win back-to-back awards in recognition of our awesome efforts. And within that period, we take note critically of the states we competed with. Lagos State, Gauteng Province in South Africa, Casamance region in Senegal. And in all of these scorings, Bayelsa State came tops and won back-to-back awards in 2013 and 2014. And here we are again on the platform, thanks to vision and leadership by His Excellency. And of course, the influx of people to Bayelsa State are all indicators, so much so that the prices of properties are skyrocketing and something has to be done about it. And of course, in response to that, His Excellency has gone on a drive for housing projects to ensure that the teeming people coming in have somewhere to stay, and increase in nightlife as well. Despite the economic downturn, he has made massive investments still in security acquisitions. And that was why just this year, he had to acquire some more land platforms. And even as we speak, there are arrangements to acquire some maritime platforms to come on board so that we can monitor several areas that are seemingly experiencing some kind of lacks. So that much is on. And he has been able to mobilize the citizenry and put in place community administration laws that makes the communities and the leadership of various communities to play their role in providing security to Bayelsa State. And that is the story of Bayelsa State, and we cannot move from stage to stage and from success to success with the support of people like security groups like Security Watch Africa. And we trust that we can only get better and be a state that can set the pace for quite a number of other states to emulate in the area of security. We are glad and we thank you for an opportunity to tell our story every night.
the Crime Security Squad in West Africa and Central Africa. Please let's welcome their representatives with a round of applause.
Operation Duapo.
Oh, I'm tired. We just ate now. We've all eaten the food. Just clap.
Best anti-crime security squad.
I sort of know how to plan very well.
Oh, Nigeria. Oh, really?
And
please, can I let's put our hands together?
you now find that Nigeria and Ghana are joined them. You don't know how to plan very well.
Oh, really?
Leaders as me, want to give the Almighty God His glory for this wonderful work. Bayelsa is a wonderful terrain. 70% water, and we know what that means. And on land too, we have performed very, very, very well. I've been associated with Governor since 2012, and we have lived up to expectation. Expectation of the government, expectation of the people of Bayelsa State. If you look at our history, before this government came in, we had Fountain, and it's exact opposite of President Duapo. President Duapo in the John language stands for peace, and we have succeeded in bringing peace to Bayelsa.
So who are you dedicating this award to, sir?
We want to thank God Almighty, and we couldn't have achieved this much without the support, tremendous support of the Inspector General of Police. It's been very, very wonderful, and our people call him the Tokanadu Governor. The judge will also call him the Ofuma Pepe. Ofuma Pepe is the great shark, the shark that even if the waters are turbulent, the shark will pass through.
Please, let's put our hands together for the Tokanadu
Governor, the Ofuma Pepe, Seriake Dickson. We will not forget to mention our security consultant, Major Lance retired. We also thank the first SA security, Lieutenant Colonel Kenebai, now an honorable member of the House of Assembly. And above all, I also want to dedicate this to all the men from the different squadrons who are serving in Operation Duapo.
Thank you very much.
They are the people that have also helped us to achieve all the successes we have achieved so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen. No, Major, don't come in a hurry. Don't come in a hurry. We have 3 more awards to go. But we are begging you right now, please take your time, stroll down. We know what you have. Stroll down here. We know what you've done in Bayelsa. We know all the apparatus you put in place. We know all the expertise you put in place. Bayelsa is working because the governor, didn't need to look for a man like you. You're scarce. Your time is scarce. You've served the military, you've served Nigeria, you've served West Africa, you've served Africa. Globally, you're a force to be reckoned with. So I find it a delightful thing to welcome you to this stage. It was not enough that you delivered your speech, all of that was not enough. This is the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome Major, retired, Lancelot Anyaya, Chief Executive, Spares and Shield Consults for, this award is a unique one, Most Innovative Security and Safety Professional in Nigeria. Please let's put our hands together for him. Let's put our hands together for him. Please don't get tired. Thank you.
He said, Michael Jones, of course. That's what I should have known. And when we meet a woman, I thought, ask for what age. But the woman was so that I didn't even ask how old she was. And I asked her, Michael Jones, tell me, how old are you? He said, I won't tell you, don't ask me any more stupid questions. So, when this lady said that my coursemate in the Queen is Hey, grandfather. And I know I'm getting old. I congratulate when everybody, you see, when I look at the story of Africa, I'm always sad. But today I will sleep well. But I see hope in the air. When Nigeria, 1 out of every 5 Africans is a Nigerian. So when Nigeria fails, Africa fails. When Nigeria is hope, Africa is hope. But don't let us stop here. There's still a lot of work to be done. A lot of work. But when you look at the world, look at Asia, India, Vietnam, Korea, and they are moving forward. But Africans seem to be on the same spot and moving back. That's a sad issue. I hope the forward march has started. And God bless Africa.
That's the conference for tonight. The forward march has started. Major.
Thank you. Good evening, our chair, very senior officers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's always very difficult for me personally to say anything when you know that the brain is shutting down for everybody. I like to be very respectful of people's time, because time is one thing we can't create, and life is measured in time. For everybody who has found time to give us a bit of your life, for sharing this moment with us, and for making it the event that it is, because without people there is no event. Thank you. Thank you. And to those who have given us opportunity to be of service, because we are the aggregate of every investment that we made in us, from those who saw us through school, our parents, our spouses, our children, and our trainers, our instructors, those who never get to get a mention, who make us what we are. I think if you just oblige me, it's a good time to say thank you to them. A few years ago, my regimental sergeant major in military school turned 76. Whoa. And I still keep in touch with him. Because looking back as an adult, I think back to how mischievous we were with all that energy at that age, to keep our boys in check. And without people like that old man, and people like yourselves and what you've done, there will be no decent citizens to give to society whatever good you are able to give to society. So every opportunity to say thank you to those who have had the privilege that we share, we can never consider it enough. So thank you, sir, that at this age you're still giving back to us.
And who are you dedicating this award to, sir? I know you have a beautiful one.
Yes, I do, and certainly my wife knows I appreciate her beyond dedicating this award to her. I think I dedicate this award to all of us. All of us. We are what we are because of all of us. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much for everybody. I'm concerned. I hope next time we can organize better so we don't stretch ourselves into the night.
Absolutely.
And we can enjoy our evening. I'm just so concerned about time. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
It's an award night, sir. The governor is echoing. Please, can we all rise? And DJ, can you give me that song? I'm a champion. Can we all rise, please? As we present this award, darling, please read it. Please, can we all rise? We'll persevere to this very time.
Best award for Best Security and Safety Conscious State Governor.
I am very much aware of what they are doing in Bayelsa. I've had the privilege alongside with Patrick to see all the apparatus put in place. Make it last. All our very essay here. Where is Fola and the others? Let's put our hands together for this great award being given to Bayelsa State.
Wow.
With fidelity to the great white shark himself, the Ofuma Pepe, the one who crosses the ocean even in tempest, and the one who says that he serveth God well, who serveth man well. And I think this is an acknowledgement of his service to the people of Bayelsa State, his philosophy as to the primacy of security as a necessary foundation for any kind of development. will deliver this, and I'm sure he will do the right thing by way of dedication.
Permit me, sir, I want everyone from Bayelsa State that is present to be here for this photograph. Anyone working alongside Major Lands, please come over quickly as we invite those from Lagos State alongside with the Commissioner of Police to receive this on behalf of the Governor of Lagos State.